What life-altering things should every human ideally get to experience at least once in their lives? Create something that someone else genuinely enjoys or is entertained by. A story, a painting, anything that harnesses your creativity. It's such a raw and rewarding feeling. It's easy to look at authors and artists and filmmakers and see them as these superhumans with unique gifts that you could never access. But the truth is that you're just as capable as any of them. Go somewhere isolated enough at night that you can see the full skyscape, including the band of the Milky Way. Spending a day alone with no plans, completely at liberty, in a foreign city you've never been to before. One of my favorite travel experiences was a 12-hour layover in Seoul. I managed to see the oldest temple in town, go to a modern art museum, eat a meal meant for an entire family, build gifts for friends and family, accidentally get drunk from soju, and get cursed out in Korean by a bus driver. I still need to go back with more of a plan. Being the person in a room that everyone else looks up to, whether it be as a teacher or anything else. Just knowing I could make a difference in some kid's life was the best part of coaching tennis for me. Being debt-free. I've paid off 2 credit cards this week and it feels so incredible. I cannot wait to pay off the other 2. Scuba diving. I promise you, it's a completely different world down there and it's not ours. You'll be amazed and maybe even get an understanding and a greater connection to our Earth and all the living things on this chunk of rock floating through space. The feeling of having mastered something. Piano, poetry, writing, some video game, coding, anything really. There is a special self-knowledge that comes from having mastered something that everyone really needs to know. Fighting for one's life in some form. 3 years ago I was in a river for the swim portion of a triathlon. Because of heavy rainfall the week prior, the current was moving incredibly quickly. The race organizers eventually cancelled the swim portion of the event, but not until myself and about half the other competitors were already in the water. About halfway through the swim, the current became too much and I was being carried downstream despite my strongest attempts to swim against it. It was at that moment that I was literally swimming for my life. It was terrifying at the moment, but an experience I'm really glad I had. Failure. You'd be surprised how many people constantly have their life fixed for them and never have to fail at anything. Failure allows us to learn coping skills, resilience, problem solving, determination. So many skills that many people today just don't have. Absolutely agree on this. Failure taught me it's not the end of the world if you fail. Being utterly lost or similarly in a hopeless situation, and getting yourself out of it with persistence and endurance. When you hit rock bottom, one of 3 things can happen. You can crash, you can bounce, you can break right through it and fall to an even lower rock bottom. Try to do option 2. Go into a nursing home and volunteer to sit with some of the loneliest residents. Let them talk, just listen. You'll learn so much and experience every emotion you know, and some you never felt before. Stand on top of a mountain. Travel alone. Doesn't need to be long, but I think it requires a skill to be alone and feel comfortable about it. Not many people take the leap to go and or don't have the skill. It is very valuable to feel comfortable being alone, being in a crowd for example. Complete vulnerability in the company of the person that you love. Letting that person really know you and taking the risky leap of putting yourself, with all of your insecurities, quirks, and naive hopes, in another person's hands. I can't agree with this more. I was struggling with so much trust, anxiety, and insecurity issues for so long that when I finally let myself completely open to someone I felt like a whole new person. The only thing I can add to this is to be sure the other person is open to have you open up and has the patience and love to help you get back on your feet. Eating healthy food for like 2 months straight. You never realize how crappy you feel if you've been feeling that way literally your entire life. Also helps you realize how insanely addictive sugar fast food is. Once you go back to it, the cravings kick in immediately, at least in my experience. I've said this before on Reddit and people literally message me saying I'm full of crap. Like, okay, you don't have to do it. Just saying living off pizza and soda can make you feel like garbage. 2 things come to mind. Standing somewhere very high and just absorbing the view. It's easy, especially in our urban cities and overdeveloped suburbs, to lose the sense of how big the world really is. People talk about big sky in places like Texas, but you haven't experienced big sky until you're standing a mile or 3 high and looking out over the planet. And being in an airplane does not count. Also, really experiencing the night sky, somewhere truly dark. Big bonus if you're doing both at the same time. Failure, heartache, embarrassment, loss. Without them you can't grow. Living single and alone. It's a very specific kind of freedom but a touch of fear. I can do whatever I want. At the same time, if something bad happened, it might be a bit before anyone even noticed. I had never lived alone until I was in my late 30s. I was terrified to live by myself. Thought I would be scared and so lonely all the time, but it turns out that it is the greatest thing ever. I don't know how I will ever be able to live with another person again. I joke that if I ever get remarried, we will have to have separate residences. Total isolation. I'm talking traveling out to a remote location far away from civilization and far away from anyone else. It's just you and the world around you, all alone, and not another soul in sight. It's such a bizarre yet powerful feeling. Here you are, completely free from the constraints of civilization, free from your obligations, free from your routines. There's nothing holding you back now except yourself. You're experiencing life at its purest. I went on one heck of a bushwalk not too long ago that took me deep into a forest that very few people have been through. There was a moment where I was sitting on this fallen tree where it hit me just how truly far away and isolated I was. And with that, just how far away all my problems were too. Out here, it was just me and the trees. It really seems to put life back into perspective when you inevitably have to head back and re-enter civilization. The juxtaposition is something else. There's a place I go to often to completely switch off. No phones, no contact with the outside world. I love it. It's like a detox. Love, not lustful, hormonal and temporary rushes of emotion. Deep, sacrificial, spiritual, heck or high water, to the ends of the earth love. To love someone like that and to be loved like that in return is the highest point of human existence. I would kill and die for my wife without a second thought. She knows this, and I know she would do the same for me. I never really lived until I loved, and specifically, loved like this. I share this kind of love for my siblings and my parents. As crap as it is, and I wouldn't wish it upon many people, heartbreak, I feel like a lot of personal growth can stem from it. It also makes you way more sensitive and understanding of others who are hurting and suffering. Empathy is far more important and powerful than sympathy. The unconditional love of a pet. Having a true bond with an animal is so amazing. A total solar eclipse. I saw a partial. It was cool. Saw a total. It was life-changing. Just amazing. Pack up, leave and start afresh in a whole new town. As someone who's done this 4 times, make sure to remember who you are instead of reinventing yourself every time. Working in food service. Humbling, and teaches you to not be a piece of crap to people. Standing in front of a classroom trying to teach. Friends who teach in the elementary secondary system have the same complaints as professors. Everyone has a criticism, complaint or gentle suggestion to improve, but have no idea what is involved in getting all of the regulatory requirements, getting up in front of a class and ensuring that the LOs are met in a way that satisfies federal, state and university administrators while also engaging the students. It's getting worse and worse, too. Amen. I did it for 2 years in a high school. Anyone who teaches has my respect because I'll never do it again. A long road trip with friends. It's a bonding experience being in a little metal box with a group of friends for hours at a time trying to get somewhere together. You'll drive each other crazy. You'll make each other laugh. It's truly a wonderful experience. On the bucket list for sure. Creation. For most people this will probably mean having a family and raising children. For others, and a large overlap with the child having crowd, this would mean taking some idea, some concept, and turning it into reality. Maybe it's making the video game idea you've had since you were a kid. Maybe it's writing a book, or producing a unique work of art. It could be designing your own home, or inventing something new. We as human beings have an urge to create things, and doing so seems to grant some kind of supreme satisfaction and joy. Whoa, you just made me realize why I have no urge to create children. I create all the dang time. Garlic bread. I could eat a very unreasonable amount of garlic bread if given the opportunity. Working in retail, major city emergency room, police, and fast food. It's always easy to assume we know better until we work there and deal with some ignorant people who just wanna act a fool with anyone and everyone. Total solar eclipse. That 2017 solar eclipse was something incredible. I couldn't contain myself or even try to express what I was feeling in the moment that it happened. Seeing something that disrupts Mother Nature from her everyday activities that we are used to is absolutely breathtaking. I think each of us needs to go somewhere far away and live with very different people for a while to learn that we are all deserving of the same basic respect. A really attractive person thinking you're really attractive. And other hilarious jokes I can tell myself. Living abroad for at least half a year. This is especially true if that other country has a completely different culture than your home country. If you are, for example, an US American, try to live in China for a while. They are always looking for English teachers and pay good money if you are certified and have experience. Handling the dead. Military service provided me plenty of experiences. By no means was it pleasant or enjoyable, but it changed my perspective about the simple yet strict difference between alive and dead. Those experiences placed my own mortality at the forefront of my mind. You have been visited by the romantic doggo. Comment love is magic so you never fall in the friend zone. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.